mentioned, our next reader is Benjamin Aleshire. Benjamin Aleshire travels the world as a poet for hire, composing poems for strangers on a manual typewriter. His work has been featured recently in the Times UK, Iowa Review, Boston Review, and on television in the US, China, and Spain. He lives in New Orleans. Welcome, Ben.
Sorry. No, okay. So I'm going to read some of these poems from my book Currency, which is a collection of all these poems I wrote for strangers all over the place. So the title is usually what people ask me for, but sometimes I change it around a little bit. This first one I wrote for a TV guy as he was videoing me. You want a poem about the news, so it's called Fake News. My smartphone is a nesting doll, suspiciously heavy and rattling faintly like a SARS saber sheathed. Something doesn't add up. I opened her like a jam jar, find Henry Kissinger headscarved and peasant-skirted, clutching his Nobel Peace Prize. Would I pop him like a Bud Light? And then Putin glistens, bare-breasted. I twist his hips apart, and that's when it happened. It was like a farm spilling out. It was a like farm. So many emperors in that circus giving me a thumbs up, the sound of one hand clapping. I had so much consent manufactured, my applause was deafening. Now I can do anything. Even speak French. Listen. Alternative fact. Pas de nom de guerre. Coup d'état. La la la. And then they cut it out of the thing. I don't know why. There were also these two. Well, no, I can't tell that story. But this next one is called New Orleans Ghost Tour, which I wrote for this family that was on vacation in New Orleans, and they were really disappointed because they'd been on vacation all weekend and they hadn't seen a single ghost. And so they wanted me to write them a haunting poem. This is what I wrote for them. There's no need to manufacture a pageantry of fear. Why fetishize the gore of this city's history when it's already on our hands? If you want a ghost story, just turn on the news. You want to be haunted? Okay. Your taxes pay for the fleets of robots to rain death onto the children of the faraway villages you cannot pronounce. Right now. And now. And now. And now. And then the little kid like screamed crying and stuff. And the father gave me all this money and I, went on my strange way. I was just doing this in Mueller Park at the farmer's market. So maybe I'll read like a fresh one, which is, I'm sorry for doing it on my phone here. I used to use carbon paper to keep a copy, and then I had like suitcases filled with carbon copies, and then someone finally gave me, they were like, dude, you need a phone. So they gave me their old phone. I used to be kind of like, Luddite or whatever. Back when it was cool and not pretentious. So they asked me, it was like this happy family, and they're like, I don't know, they wanted, I was like, what do you want the poem to be about? And of all the things they said, they wanted a poem about corn dogs, which to me is not necessarily poetically interesting, but then also maybe all objects are freighted somehow with like the horror of existence or whatever. But anyway, this is what I wrote for them. Like how would you make a poem about corn dogs and without being like sugary corn dog, you know, on a stick walking through the fair, you know, like how do you do it? So I don't know how I did, but it's called Corn Dog. Imagine a future where the flora and fauna join forces. The silk tassel of a wagging tail, rows of kernel teeth and fields of paw prints. Every leaf and stone and creature that Adam named combining in order to survive him. And I don't know, they paid, I don't know. Thank you. The world's ending. I'm so down with Josh's apocalyptic, I'm gonna get his book for sure. And you do too. And thanks Josh for joining us and stuff. I have some friends in Austin and then, you know, I like booked this and then all my friends in Austin left. They're like, oh, we're out of town or blah, blah, blah. But, oh well. So maybe, yeah, I'll read this one. It's called El Océan. Inside le caracol of tu oreille, escuchas les murmurations of los waves licking la arena. Quand you giras le map tu traces avec tes bare footprints, disparaissent comme los mots d'une lettre écrite con disappearing ink. Y maintenant, finally, aprendes toi how to navegar como un sailor avec los new constellaciones formándose above toi, tu, you. Oh, I made a list. I was actually sort of organized a little bit. Oh yeah, I kind of got into writing haiku recently, not for people on the street, but I don't know why, it's sort of a strange challenge. But I kind of cheat because I use like titles, you know, so you get to pack a lot of other information there. But this is a found haiku. It's called Haiku. My mother wrote it. It's called Haiku by my mother. I found in the marginalia of her bills while going through her bills after she drank herself to death at age 60. Call Susan at bank, ask about overdraft fees. Cry this time. And this one is called, so you know, like the president of our country is like being blackmailed because he was pissed on by prostitutes and like that's, you know, it's kind of what's happening. This is called Compromat Haiku. Oh Katya, oh Sonia, only you could love me enough to wash me clean. And this one is called, I spent some time in Nicaragua, and it's called Erectile Dysfunction Haiku. Flashlights on the beach, men stealing turtles' eggs. Yeah, they drink turtle eggs, you know, I think it's good for that, I guess. I guess I'll read two more. This one I wrote while I was living at this bookstore in Paris called Shakespeare and Company. So they have kind of young, wayward writers that shelf books for a couple hours, and then they just like sleep, you know, like under the tables and stuff. So I lived there for a couple months. Not under the tables. Don't worry. Skye's maybe gonna do it this summer. You get a little cushion thing. But I asked the owner if she wanted a poem. Sylvia Whitman, who's named after Sylvia Beach, who was the kind of one of the central figures of like the Lost Generation scene in Paris. So she said she wanted to be about motherhood, which really frightens me, because I don't know anything about that. And then I remembered this quote by Grace Paley, who's a really wonderful poet and writer, and she has this poem called Responsibility, and it says, it is the responsibility of the poet to be a woman. And that was kind of like what allowed me to get in there. Motherhood. 9 moons in the making of his Leontine hair, but millennia have passed in order to forge those gold shocks shaking along the shop's cobblestones. It is no coincidence of language that maternity is as close to eternity as we can reach. Even the Seine, swollen, pregnant with cirrus and rain. Tell me, is it possible for any of us to be so heavy with an other that we cut them loose? And then this last one, I was doing this in Cuba for a while, and they don't really have toilet paper in the bathrooms down there all the time, but there'll be like an old woman asleep in a chair, and so you very gently like put your hand on her shoulder and you say "amor," and she wakes up and you give her a coin, and then she gives you some toilet paper, you know? So she saw my sign that said "poema para ti," and she just demanded that I write her a poem. So I fed it into the typewriter and wrote this for her, and then we kind of translated together. Toilet paper. I used to be a tree, you know. Can you believe I had leaves? Blossoms looming at my fingertips. Please don't be embarrassed. Nothing insults me. For the thick skin I wore, not even my own destruction. Your hands are softer than you will ever know. Total annihilation is what taught me to appreciate moments like this one. Please let me touch you one more time in the place you are most vulnerable before I change again, before you send me back to where we all began. Thanks.